plan for caster?
Yeah, whatever the lowest. Well, there is no free, so yeah, whatever the basic paid plan is.
Yeah. One FB profile, 5 destination.
Oh, hold on. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever time of day it might happen to be, wherever you might happen to be out there in the world. Ladies, gentlemen, whatever, whoever, welcome once again to Nerd Week Live here on YouTube, Twitch, and sadly, once again, not on Facebook Live. Gonna get that figured out eventually. 2 weeks it worked. 2 weeks so far it hasn't. I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber. I am first-person shooter as a cosplay photographer on the interwebs. Burley_adopter on Twitter, and my mic's a little bit hot, so let me turn that down. And joining me tonight is the comfortable-looking and stylish. Uh-oh. What are we doing? We're doing like ebony and ivory here. Anyway, in the white T-shirt, introduce yourself, sir.
Hey everyone, I did say that I might be back next week, and here it are next week. So here I am, being the Latino Rodney Brown, Luis Correa, Crash the Photos, co-producer at Nerd Caliber, one of my favorite places to work for. I'm looking forward to have a nice little conversation with my man Rodney, and we can talk about some fantastic topics that came up this week and a little bit from the previous week. So we're looking forward to getting any questions from you guys. If you guys want to kick in the comments section there and have a nice dialogue with us.
Please do. Please do. We're going to start with some hellos here. Farida, hello. I'm pretty sure it's, I'm going to butcher the way that's pronounced, I'm sure, but merhaba. Had to look that up. It's Turkish for hello. Luminous, welcome to the show. Gethsemane Bautista, hello. Emily Kaysen, hello. Valkyrie 676, hello. Welcome to the show, everybody. And we're going to start right off with one thing that I'm pretty excited about, and that is the good folks at Entertainment Weekly got a first look at Alexander Skarsgard as Randall Flag in the upcoming CBS All Access miniseries of The Stand, Stephen King's enormous and ridiculously timely book about a pandemic that wipes out most of humanity. I think this is great. Of its time, the miniseries back in the, I think it was 80s, that actor looked appropriate as sort of, a mullet-wearing, denim jacket-wearing kind of guy. This is, I think, much more appropriate for the time, this sort of look. Also in that article, you got a chance to see Oprah Winfrey as Mother Abigail. Looks like Oprah Winfrey, except even older. And a couple of other people. Who else you see? You get to see Harold. And James Marsden as Stu. And they all look good. It looks good. I'm pretty excited about it. My only issue or potential concern here is it's the fact that Amber Heard is in it. And that's going to be something that I'm going to watch her, and every time she's on screen, I'm going to think of a couple of things. The whole Johnny Depp garbage, but also her horrible, horrible performance in Aquaman. So, but she plays Nadine. Yeah. So if you've read the book, you know where that goes. So, what do we think, Lewis?
Honestly, it's like one of those things where I think I've seen was it the 80s or was it the 90s? That the miniseries from Sci-Fi came out.
It might have been 90s. I thought it was 80s, but okay, we'll say 90s.
Yeah, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I kind of liked it. I know it got really long in the tooth towards the middle end there, but it is what it is for a miniseries. You have that opportunity to be long in the tooth, and maybe this will be another one that's because you're gonna really want to stretch it out. And I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be surprised if they rushed out development and production of this, considering with everything that's going on. It's probably one of those things where they're like, man, how can we make money off of the pandemic without actually making money off of the pandemic? Let's make a TV series about a pandemic and throw some Jesus stuff in there.
I'm assuming that the production was all set up long before anybody knew that this was going to happen. Whether or not they're, like you said, they're going to rush to get it out onto the platform because of the pandemic, we'll have to see that. I'm looking to see in this article if it says when this premieres. It says 2020, but I can't see in here where it gives me a particular date. It hasn't been announced yet, though it's expected to debut later this year. Hey,
fall, probably.
Yeah, so we'll be in the middle of the second wave, the fall-winter wave, and we'll be at like 300,000 dead at that point, and it will be pretty appropriate. So.
Yeah, I mean, some of the most watched things on, if I recall, Netflix, has been like pandemic movies, like Contagion and all that. So, obviously, and for the Amber Heard thing, I've been watching that thing. We're not going to go into detail because that'd be a whole nother stream on its own.
Oh yeah,
but like,
look it up if you're interested, folks.
Yeah, I've been following that since like day one, and I'm like, bro, I don't even know who to believe anymore. But yeah, I haven't seen Aquaman, so I can't opinionate on her acting ability in Aquaman. So we'll see what happens.
And I don't know whether it's her acting ability or whether it was just James Wan. I mean, he's a great horror director, but who knows what kind of an actor director he is. Freddie Plays, welcome to the show, Freddie. Oof. What's the oof for, Freddie? Let us know. Hopefully it's an oof in reaction to something about what we're talking about, like The Stand, and not the show or what we're doing here. But weigh in, Catastrophic on Twitch. Welcome to the show. Sorry, just popped in. What show? So this is Nerd Week Live. We've been doing it on YouTube for a couple of years now. We've finally ported it over to Twitch as well, so that people on Twitch can check it out. What we do is we talk about nerd news from the past week. And if you've been listening, you just heard that we were talking about the upcoming CBS All Access adaptation of The Stand and the fact that we got to see the first pictures from that and giving our reactions to that. Daviari, I not sure what that says. Maybe welcome from Brazil? I don't know. But so whatever it says, welcome to the show. And thanks for joining. So sometime later this year, we get to see The Stand. We get to see Trash Can Man. That's when it's not going to be possible to do a better job as Trash Can Man than Matt Frewer did in the original series. So it would have had to have been really late 80s or 90s, because it would have been post. Oh, come on. Can't think of his name. Anyway, the virtual reality character Matt Frewer played. Max Headroom. There we go. Took a while for that to come out. You're right. I think it would have been at the very earliest late 80s, probably into the 90s. I don't know who they've cast for a Trash Can Man, but that's going to be tough.
Yeah, that is going to be very tough. I remember that role more than anything on that TV series, like him, and he was just like really like iconic in it, like really good, He was fantastic. Did stuff that I didn't know he could do at the time, which was great. Watching an actor stretch is always fun. Speaking of watching actors, well, I don't know if stretch is the right word. That image popped up right there is from the music video promoting the upcoming Netflix movie about the Eurovision contest. That apparently now has a title, and the title is ridiculous. Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga. Kind of outside our wheelhouse a little bit. The main reason I put it up there, and you know what, I should have picked a photo that actually had him in that costume, is that in the promo work and at the beginning of the video that they're using to promote this video that you're looking at here, Will Ferrell is in a costume that looks so much like friend of Nerd Caliber, Hyrulean Cosplay's version of Thor. It's really shockingly, it's almost like he built it for Will Ferrell. He didn't, at least not that I know of. So that's pretty much the only reason we're putting it up there. The costumes are insane, and if you follow Eurovision, if that's your thing, they are gonna be
appropriately ripping on how amazingly cheesy or overwrought an awful lot of the submissions for Eurovision are.
I honestly didn't even know like what the hell Eurovision was. I thought it was just like, because I mean, you see Will Ferrell in other movies, and they always have like some asinine title, So I was just like, all right, this is just something overly complex in title that is gonna just be silly as hell. So that's where I went with that, because I was just like, I'm not gonna look this up. This is probably something I'm reading too deep into this. So now I realize that maybe I was wrong in this one.
Now, did you look at any of the videos that our friend Becky put in underneath this, showing actual Eurovision entries from this year?
No, I didn't even know. First, I didn't get a notification.
Maybe it was on my personal page. I'll go back and look at that. It might not have been in our Nerd Caliber Nerd Week Live thing. But yeah, she posted at least 3 or 4 videos that are current entries, and they're all wacky. It's Eurovision is a real thing, and it's really wild. Waifu Pennywise, hi, welcome back to the show. Good to see you back. Catastrophic, I love actors stretching for real, comedians playing serious roles, an absolute favorite when done well, of course. Good point. So Catastrophic, The Stand is being released on CBS All Access streaming service and sometime in 2020. They don't have a date yet. But yeah, so...
Yeah. And Robin Williams is a good example of that stretching.
Yep. It's all sorts of them. It's amazing when you see... Or, flip that, the first time you got to see The Rock actually do comedy, The Rundown was one of the funniest movies. I mean, he is hilarious in that movie.
Absolutely. Or Bruce Willis.
Yeah, Bruce Willis can be really funny. Bruce Willis, to me, started out as funny because he started out in the show Moonlighting. So that was a romantic comedy, basically.
Right. But he also did a good stretch from action to drama.
Yes. To some extent. I'm not a huge fan of Bruce Willis's dramatic work. I don't think he can quite pull off what he's trying to do in a lot of his more dramatic pieces, but more power to him for not just sitting there in the comedy or action wheelhouse. But anyway, so Eurovision June 26th, so you're like literally a month away if you want to catch Will Ferrell in really bizarre armor, singing really cheesy keyboard electronic heavy ABBA meets Evanescence kind of
synth wave in there a little bit.
Yep. It's actually now. How did you describe the song, Lewis? I believe you said it slaps. Was the term?
Yes, it is. It is a real bop.
It's
as the kids say.
It's a kid's bop. It's a bop. Alice, welcome to the show. Waifu, I'm doing fine. Lewis, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well, actually. I got a whole bowl of pho waiting for me when we're done.
Oh, man. Now I'm starved. I've had dinner, but I just mentioned that. Now I'm starved. Catastrophic. No hate on The Rock. Good point. Do you think that perhaps they are funny because they flip when they usually do serious roles? Are they good at the roles, or are the tropes doing the heavy lifting? I think they're good. So here's an example. If you do a trope flip and it fails, and that has happened, it's obvious. You can tell. It's like, okay, that person didn't have the chops. Flashcord Photo, welcome to Twitch. Faux show.
Yeah. I'm always down with actors trying new things, because you don't want to end up being typecast in a specific type of role. If I recall correctly, Mark Hamill felt exactly that way after Skywalker, after Star Wars ended, and he was just constantly being called Luke, and he was denied roles that he applied for because of Star Wars. And then he did I feel like for him specifically, and then we'll move on, is the one role that I remember him the most is from Amazing Stories.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
that was like the one role for me. I thought he was great because he wasn't Luke Skywalker. He was a kid with a dream.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. Mark Hamill has more range than a lot of people give him credit for, and I think more range than he has himself tried to take advantage of. He fell into that really super successful voiceover stuff with the Joker, and kind of rode that wave like he did with Luke for a while. So, anyway, moving on to our next show. Flash Gordon. Sandler is apparently really good in that Uncut Gems movie. I haven't seen it yet. I've heard absolutely wonderful things. I think that Sandler gets a knock for not being a good actor, and the very few things he's done that have serious dramatic moments or are serious roles, he's really good.
Yeah.
Moving on to our next topic. So you may wonder, why did a Transformer, a comic book Transformer, just pop up in your feed or in your screen here? That is because the news is, unfortunately, that the publisher of the Transformers comics and a lot of other licensed titles like that, IDW, announced last week that it was having pretty massive layoffs. They had put a bunch of people on furlough with the idea that everybody's going to come back, and then they just couldn't hold on to that. So they had to lay off, I think it was in the hundreds. Oh, my bad. A dozen. They may not have 100 people. But some pretty high-ranking individuals, according to this thing. Associate publisher David Hedgecock, managing editor Denton Tipton. So some pretty top-tier people at IDW. My big concern is IDW licenses pretty much every comic that's made that is licensed out of Hasbro. So you've got Transformers, you've got Sonic the Hedgehog, which is a big licensing deal that Hasbro has. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which again, because of the licensing deal for the toys and so on. What's going to happen to all of that? Is Hasbro going to just have to pick up IDW?
That's a very good question, because prior to the pandemic, IDW was working on a unified comic universe with Transformers, G.I. Joe, and a lot of Masked Crusaders, which I love.
Yep, we covered that. Thank you for reminding me. I forgot about that.
And then like IDW has a lot of other comics under their umbrella, and a lot of like independent like writers and artists go to IDW usually when they want to approach a topic that the big two won't cover to the depth that they want to cover it in.
Yep.
So I'm worried that like IDW might fire way more people and go to like bare minimum, which means they're going to take a hit, and it's just going to be like a cycle of taking a hit, constantly reducing numbers, and pretty soon they're going to be bought out by one of the two like DC bought out Image, but they also bought out Storm. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Wildstorm?
Wildstorm, yes.
Right. Which is one of the subsidiaries of Image. So it was Image was a bunch of independent studios, and up until DC bought it, basically. And so there's that. There's also, I think, doesn't IDW also publish a lot of other licensed titles? Like, are they the ones that do a lot of the Star Trek?
I'm pretty sure they do a lot of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And I know the other day I was reading about like a big relaunch of Ninja Turtles that they were doing. And so it's like, how is that getting impacted too, you know?
Yep. They do the Star Trek, so they do My Little Pony. So we know a lot of artists who, if this doesn't continue, are going to be impacted by this. The wonderful Sarah Richard, J.K. Woodward, all sorts of people. So the other question is, since all of those people work as freelancers, by getting rid of what it looks like a big swath of middle management, does that mean that they are able to continue to publish so that they can pay their freelancers and not have to pay this sort of middle management level.
Yeah, yeah. And I know the big two are really pushing digital publishing right now to combat low numbers at comic book stores, which that's just going to have a trickle down effect in terms of comic book stores.
Yeah.
Not being able to, not having materials to push because of the pandemic. And I know a lot of comic book stores that are doing shipping now, and they're to maintain like their customer base.
Yep.
And even then, it's like companies like IDW, DC, and Marvel are trying to like steal that business as well from the comic book shops by punching lower discounts that the comic book shops can't meet. It's just a whole mess.
It is. I thank God for the comic book shop owners. We both know that they started with an independent, non-diamond distributor last week to get some comics in, and apparently this week it's back to sort of normal. Tomorrow will be the first, I think, shipment coming out of Marvel since it shut down because of the pandemic. Musfilos, you put in your whole Gmail account there. Okay. I think that's either you are from Brasilia, or you are Brazilian. I'm not really sure. Excuse me. I don't have a mute on this thing, unfortunately, like I did on my...
You are correct.
Okay, thank you. And Waifu Pennywise, even though I thought Disney was owning everything. Yeah, so Hasbro, it's shocking. Go look this up. Hasbro owns, recently they just bought a lot of stuff, owns a lot of stuff. And they are really branching out. They bought a company that has under its overarching media distribution Death Row Records.
Yeah, I remember that. I thought it was hilarious.
So Hasbro owns Death Row Records. So they could very well take IDW in if they have to under their wing. I bet they could get it for not a whole lot. Assuming that even Hasbro wants to spend money right now and buy other companies. You never know.
Yeah.
So moving on to our next topic, and fingers crossed for the people at IDW and the people who are no longer at IDW that they find something, pretty quickly. This, folks, is a character named Jackpot. Obviously in the Spider-Verse, character I knew almost nothing about. And the news here is that Sony is apparently so desperate to keep rights to Spidey and making stuff that they are making a movie based on this character Jackpot, described as a crime-fighting mom in the comics. And they have named this writer Mark Guggenheim to write the script for the upcoming movie. It's okay. I mean, have you ever heard of this character, Lewis? Anybody out there know who this is?
Literally never heard of that character, and you know me in comics, man, and I have never heard of this character.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know if they were like a one shot or they popped in. It's like the equivalent of like battling Bantam. Like most people don't even know that character. Puerto Rican boxer, by the way. But no one's really ever heard of that character. Like I throw that name out, maybe 3 people out of like 100 will know that character.
So here's the thing: this the character's name is Sarah Earhart or Aret, Sarah Aret, who got exposed to this particular virus while she was pregnant. Baby was born healthy, but she wound up with super strength and a few other things. This image, we'll put the image back up there. Supposedly the character was popular enough that they got their own short-run spin-off series. This is from issue number 1. That's the cover of issue number 1 of Jackpot. I no idea. And here's the thing. So you've got a redhead named Jackpot. Why isn't this character Mary Jane?
Yeah.
Isn't that her? You've hit the jackpot, Tiger? Isn't that her slogan?
That is. And then, so what I'm gleaming here because it mentions she was a sanctioned initiative superhero. So this must have been what is that arc called? I think it was like Civil War.
Okay.
So a lot of characters were created during Civil War as throwaway characters. You know, like these are because it says from what I'm reading here that she became government sanctioned, which is literally she gave up her secret identity, or she got powers. Tony Stark was running all of that stuff at that time, gave her a permit to be a superhero, and then she probably just faded away for a while right after that whole arc ended.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't know if that's the case, but it makes sense, and it would at least explain why. Yeah, although I read almost all of the Civil War stuff because I loved what they were doing with some of those minor characters. You know, bad guys coming out of the woodwork trying to help out Cap's side because they knew that, you know, they were in trouble if they didn't. And I never saw this character or anything about them. Catastrophic. If people don't know her, that means that they can take more liberties, which could be a huge plus. Good point. But then again, you know, they may wind up, well, if they do, they'll wind up getting the 7 super dedicated fans of Jackpot, or 700 or however many, really upset if they take a lot of liberties. But so it's obviously just in production. They just hired a writer. Guggenheim is a comic book writer who's written Aquaman, Amazing Spider-Man, Superman, Batman. Wrote some video games, Call of Duty 3. Wrote for Law and Order. Wrote for the miniseries Jack and Bobby. That's cool. Okay, wrote for CSI Miami. So there you go.
Wow, this is a lot. I mean, so she's apparently was addicted to drugs, superhuman, the mutant drug.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true. I guess they retconned her origin so that she wasn't necessarily created by this virus. It was later on. It was this the mutant growth hormone, which was a big thing in another comic arc for a while.
Yeah, and apparently she was a closeted lesbian. This is interesting, but Jesus, like this is a lot. You're gonna, you know, but I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest here and take a turn, in that I've never heard of this character. That might be a plus to be creating a character, because sometimes when you take characters that are unknown and you really like punch them up, they end up coming, like, with a really good writer, they can become a fantastic movie. And, you know, and not to I can't really think of a movie offhand where that happened, but I will say animated wise, Kite Man is a perfect example.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, Kite Man has become stupid popular now because of the Harley Quinn series.
But also, one of the reasons why they use Kite Man is because in the comics he was ridiculed, mercilessly, until one story arc where he was like the mastermind of a whole bunch of things that happened, and even Batman was shocked that Kite Man went like that far, because he always thought Kite Man was a goof too.
Now, so there's a good example. Yeah, there's another good example of that sort of thing, although not quite, you know, a joke. But the idea of somebody taking a character that was not really that super popular and turning them into something insanely popular was the Alias comic book that took Jessica Jones from Jewel, the sort of also ran occasional Avengers flying superhero, to this, you know, troubled alcoholic private detective trying to be a normal person. And that took this really super minor character, Jewel, and just shot her into the stratosphere. Gave her the Netflix series, if it wasn't for that, for Alias. So yeah, it can happen, and hopefully, you know, Guggenheim will do this with Jackpot, and it'll be a big hit. But
yeah, absolutely,
we're both kind of like, what? Catastrophic checks a lot of boxes. Yay, my girl. Hopefully, I think that was in reference to Jessica, but if not,
yes.
Okay. Cool beans.
And Luminous had a good point.
I never heard of Jackpot before. It looks like the character's identity was originally kept secret from readers, and Marvel deliberately made it appear that she might be Mary Jane. Oh, now that makes my stomach turn. I hate that sort of manipulative writing just for the sake of manipulating the audience.
A good old bait and switch.
Bait and switch. Screw that. I'm not going to hold it against her. You know, we'll see whether or not this movie turns out to be cool or not. But, you know, that's definitely a knock on Marvel, and Marvel's had plenty of them in the past.
For real.
All right, moving on to our next topic. That is, of course, wonderful imagery from the Bioshock collection, video game collection of Bioshock games that came out recently. This is not about that collection. This is about news that we apparently missed completely. And thank you, Greg, for picking this up. From back in March was a big rundown of on PC Gamer about what Bioshock 4 is going to be like. And I have to say, I didn't know that they were doing a Bioshock 4 until Greg posted this up. So,
oh, yeah. I knew that for a while.
Well, good for you. And at least we're going to catch up on that. We'll catch up on that if I can get PC Gamer to clear my ad blocker, which apparently it doesn't want to. Anyway, first off, the news is to me that there is going to be a Bioshock 4. That it is being done, obviously not by Irrational, because Irrational doesn't exist anymore. So it's in the hands of a 2K studio called Cloud Chamber, which looks like it was formed specifically for working on Bioshock 4. And according to the headline of this article, it says that we've got some information about when the release could happen. And I'm not seeing that yet. So it also doesn't really have anything to say about what the setting of the game will be, what kind of gameplay it'll be, whether or not it will, in fact, spoiler alert for the end of the whole Bioshock first 3 games, but whether it will continue the multiversal aspect of the Bioshock games.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they just kept going with that. I mean, I thought that was incredible. Bioshock 3, I didn't think Bioshock 3 was as good as the first 2 games, but to be perfectly fair, that game was rushed out. There was a lot of things that they left out, which was disappointing because there was so much more that was like really incredible if you look into the making of that game. And so I'm hoping with Bioshock 4, if they're gonna have a whole new studio handle this, and I'm pretty sure some of those people in that studio worked on the previous games because that tends to be a thing, that they don't rush it out, like they really maintain the content and make sure that it's really good. And because even though I think Infinite is less than the other 2, that doesn't mean that I think it's worse. I just think that it's not on par with the quality of the first 2.
Yeah, so I disagree with you there. I think Infinite is probably my favorite of all of them, and I think that more from the theme and meta narrative of the story than I do from the gameplay. And I guess I can see, in some cases, what they did is they obviously reused concepts from the first 2 games and then just gave them sort of different skins, different effects, different looks. And that certainly can seem like it was less of a big step forward. The first Bioshock was such a huge revelation in both storytelling and gameplay, that I can see where Infinite might seem like a lesser thing.
Well, here's the thing: is to make that argument, sort of, you have to kind of look at the stuff that was left out of Infinite, because like Infinite on its own, like I said, is not a bad game. I think it's not as good as the first 2, because if you look at everything that was left out, it would have been a vastly more superior game. Issues like it was going to go further into the racism aspect. It was going to the Children of Silence is a perfect example of a missed opportunity, because originally what they were supposed to do is they were supposed to stalk you, and every noise you made, every footstep, gunshot, everything was absorbed by them. And then when they hit an imaginary meter, they would appear before you and blast you with all this energy. And the only real way to notice that they were following you is that the sounds in your game were lessening. So there was a point where you wouldn't even hear your own footsteps, and that was the audio cue to let you know that something was going to happen.
Yeah.
The issue with her mother, way more elaborate, thought out. Like there was just a lot there that I thought, if wasn't, would have made it top tier.
Yeah, but I'm not. The more you could put into that game, the more I would have loved it. But I don't think you can compare. You can't diss a game, or you can't knock a game for what the game is by saying, okay, it could have been better because it let this stuff out. For me, based just on what I know of the game, it's a better game than the first one, and certainly the second one. But I see your point, and I remember reading about that, particularly the Children of Silence, and going, that was a really short segment, and boy, that would have been a killer thing if it was in there. But anyway, Abby 5, hola, welcome to the show. So I can't find in this article where it does, in fact, give any indication of when the game is supposed to come out. The best they have is that they were expecting to see some sort of stuff in like upcoming E3 or GDC, and GDC got canceled, and E3 won't happen in June. So who knows? I can't even imagine, since we've seen nothing about this at all, I can't even imagine it would be a 2021. I would guess it would have to be even a year later than that, at the earliest.
Yeah, like I don't really find much in the way of information. I feel like a lot of sites that I looked at when we were discussing this were basically like, yeah, this is the release date. LOL, this is not actually the release date. We don't have any information. We're just clickbaiting you.
Yeah, PC Gamer doesn't seem like they do that, but yeah, it's I hate journalistic integrity. Anyway, moving on to our next topic. That is, of course, a screenshot from the wonderful movie Labyrinth. And the news is that the sequel, which has been in the works and was definitely posted going forward a few months ago, we talked about that, has its director, and it's Scott Derrickson, who did the first Doctor Strange, and who famously passed on Doctor Strange 2 because of creative differences. He's been brought on to do the sequel to the Labyrinth. Yes, no, Labyrinth fan?
I'm gonna be honest. I've never actually seen the Labyrinth.
All right.
Yep. The only thing I heard about is the cod piece. Who hasn't heard about the cod piece? It just. I'll be honest. It didn't strike my wheelhouse. It wasn't something that I thought I would enjoy, because I'm not super into like weird high fantasy stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, if you're not into weird high fantasy stuff, this Never-Ending Story, things like that, just way certainly wouldn't be of any interest to you at all.
Well, see, that's weird, because like I like Never-Ending Story, the first and second, and Willow I liked.
Then I would think you would like this.
But I couldn't get into it. Same with Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
Never seen it. I tried a little bit. Legend, that was another one. Couldn't. I don't know what it is, man.
Wow.
Maybe I'm just like weird. Maybe I'm just like a moody little. Oh, I almost swear. No quarter. No quarter. There's no quarter.
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird, because of all of those things, I would think that Legend is completely outside. There's no Muppets involved in Legend. It's not, the kind of cutesy, Muppety high fantasy that you get with Dark Crystal, even though it's a very dark story, or Labyrinth, which is a somewhat potentially dark story. Certainly a threatening story. Legend is much more like Willow. I think what it might be is that Willow is an action high fantasy, sort of like the way the Lord of the Rings movie were made.
That could be it, yeah.
And Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, and so on aren't. They're much more look at our cool world, and now here's some weird stuff that happened to some humans or non-humans that are in our cool world. So yeah, I can see that. That would be my guess as to why these two things don't cross for you. But Scott Derrickson, he's decent. I liked Doctor Strange. I didn't think it was any sort of brilliant work. It was serviceable.
It was good to lead into more.
Yeah. I mean, it was a decent movie. Derrickson didn't fall down on the job in any obvious way. It was a craftsman's job. So we'll see how that translates to, working with Muppets and all the other things that are going to be here in, the Labyrinth sequel. He can handle special effects. Obviously, there's a lot of special effects in Doctor Strange. Can he handle live action special effects?
Yeah. Let's hope.
Fingers crossed. All right, moving on to our next topic and our last topic for the night, folks. It's time for everybody to weigh in. It's the Snyder Cut. So, we're going to back up on Luminous. I'm not a Labyrinth fan. I saw it in the theater when it originally came out. I did not like the slow pace, the lack of action, the lack of humor. Well,
thank you, Luminous.
Bingo.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds a lot like Lewis. It is
saying you're handsome, too.
Yeah, there you go. So, if you haven't heard this, folks, and I don't know how, if you've been and exposed to nerd news of any kind, but HBO Max announced that they were going to actually release the Snyder Cut of Justice League, which some people have been clamoring for years, almost since the movie came out. But the one of the big things to take away here is that the movie won't be released until 2021 on HBO Max. Snyder is getting $20 million to finish it in the manner that he thinks that it should have been finished. So the Snyder Cut does not actually exist yet. And so the HBO Max isn't necessarily releasing the Snyder Cut. It's letting Snyder make a Snyder Cut. And then we'll be releasing it in 2021.
I'll be honest, I am really damn conflicted about this. Like, on so many different levels, I'm super conflicted. Because, I watched the Justice League. I thought it was okay. I have, obviously, just like the rest of the world, I have whatever issues I have with it. I didn't like the idea of Steppenwolf. I wanted Darkseid. But, it was serviceable enough. But I don't like the idea of the fans, the rabid fans, and the internet in general pushing so hard that they I don't want to say give in, but this is where I feel like it applies here. Give in and create or have someone recreate something that was already made, because then it creates a precedent where people will think, well, we just bitch enough about any other thing and they're just gonna give in and recreate it. And it's not just that it's being recreated and it creates a precedent, but also in a lot of situations like this, the people who put in the work, not the actors, the people behind the scenes, the crew and everything, they're not going to make more money. They don't necessarily make more money on a new production. They might even make less because it's less content, just filler in for another movie. Then there's going to be undue stress on top of the creators because they're going to be constantly second guessing what they're going to be making, because God forbid someone freaking Naruto 38 on Twitter doesn't like the hell you produce and a scene that you cut, whatever else, you know. And I don't like that. I don't like that precedence.
I don't either. I think that's a very good point. I think your point about it being troublesome or problematic for the people who did work on it is a good point. Do you think Joss Whedon is going to do another Warner Brothers movie ever again? If it's clear that Warner Brothers, and now its parent HBO, is willing to basically say, oh, Joss, you completely screwed this movie up. Here's $20 million, Zach. Finish it the way you wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like so disrespectful to him, because he didn't put out a bad movie. It's the people, idiots. Well, it was okay. I won't say it was better. I haven't seen Aquaman, but from what everybody says, it's probably better than Aquaman. So that should be our thing. But
that's a low bench. But yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he put out the work. He put in the work, and it wasn't terrible. It didn't tank.
Right.
So should we be sending the? Shouldn't we be just telling him next time make a better movie, as opposed to saying, hey, this movie was so much trash that we're going to give money to this other person to do the thing, to redo the thing that you did? Like, I'd be offended.
Yep, I'd be hugely offended. Belkis, welcome to the show. Luminous, I think Snyder is no Richard Donner. I'll probably like the Superman 2 Donner cut more than the Justice League Snyder cut. I'll agree with that. First off, I don't think that the studio release of Superman 2 was particularly bad. I liked it quite a bit. Not as good as Superman 1. This is going back all the way to the Christopher Reeve Superman. Richard Donner made those movies. Yeah, and in some cases, the director cut, when they finally get a finished cut, Blade Runner. How many director's cuts of that were there? It can be much better. But in this case, there's so many other side points to the fact that Snyder gets to make this that it's problematic as hell. The fact that it's insulting to so many people, the fact that there's no way with a $20 million budget he's going to be able to do what he wanted to do. It's not possible. Sure, there's stuff that was cut that or that was reshot by Whedon, so the original stuff probably still exists. But as he has said, he's got to have people come back and do at least voice work. And I'm assuming most of them are willing to, but for $20 million, it's all you're going to get. There's no way. Maybe the guy who played Cyborg could be brought in, but there's no way you're going to get a face and new actual acting, on-camera acting, out of any of the other people for $20 million. It's not going to happen.
It's just not enough. It's not even remotely enough.
Right. And then there's going to be all of the special effects. If he does bring in Darkseid is going to be a completely CG character. The CG on Steppenwolf was awful.
Oh, God.
It's just so bad. Is there any possibility that they can make an acceptable Darkseid without using up all of the $20 million?
Honestly, I would go practical with Darkseid. I wouldn't go CGI.
Well, you have to do a mix, like they did with Thanos. I mean, you can't. Yeah.
Sure, a mix is fine though. But like, if you go all CGI, I don't really think it's gonna work out really well based on the previous CGI work.
But here's the thing: Steppenwolf was mocap of Kieran Hines, the actor who played his voice, and there are occasional spitting into my mic. There are occasional moments where you can see that very specific Kieran Hines, eyes and mouth structure when Steppenwolf is speaking. But even that, the fact that they mocapped an actor, like they did with Josh Brolin for Thanos, it didn't work for Steppenwolf. The CG, whatever studio it was that did the CG over that motion cap, just failed. We're not even mentioning the mustache.
Yeah, there's a lot, and I don't want to bang my point home, but I don't like the precedent that's being set. I don't like the disrespect, And I feel like making a Snyder cut is really just like we don't we don't know how to fix the trend we have of making these subpar mediocre movies. So let's give people recuts of movies that we already didn't do good at. Like, just fix your issue. Go forward and fix your issue.
Right.
Stop. Don't go backwards. Go forward.
Don't give Snyder $20 million. Give him, $220 million and have him make the sequel to this. Have him be the one who does it. Fix everything that that they screwed up. This is just what it is a, let's see, 2021, they're probably going to be experiencing that massive drop-off in subscriptions from their launch tomorrow. If you want to spend your $15 and get your HBO Max. And guess what? At that point, they will be releasing this, Snyder Cut, and their subscriptions are going to go boom, through the roof for a week.
And something I just thought about too, let's be a little bit realistic here in that the way people have argued for this stupid cut, it doesn't matter if this goddamn movie is going to be the best damn thing in the world now, because it's never going to be enough for these people.
Right.
Because a lot of these people, for real, a lot of these people are the type of a-holes that came at Snyder for his daughter dying because they felt the movie was more important than his child, him grieving, and then they're going to be the same people who are just not going to be happy with the Snyder Cut.
And these are the people that HBO Max is caving into right now. It's there's almost nothing good about this whole operation whatsoever, even if he produces a significantly better movie. Arguably on the face of it, Man of Steel, was a better movie. Batman v Superman wasn't, but so he has it in him to make a better movie. Will he out of this $20 million? I don't think so. It'll be a different movie. There are rumors that it could be as much as 4 hours long. In which case, no thanks. Although, thanks for putting on HBO Max so I can pause it and go to the bathroom. Because that's just stupid. But is he going to have essentially a Justice Lord, a black suit Superman? Which, we got in that teaser way back before the movie even, started, when Cavill himself teased out a photo of the black suit. How does that play into the storyline we already know? That would have to be a completely, fully expanded, separate interaction of the resurrection of Superman, and there's got to be a story in there where, he eventually becomes good after some sort of play with this whole black suit. You either give it the time to make sense, or it becomes just the worst fan service. Like, oh, look, we got black suit Superman in, and then 5 minutes later, oh, I'm good now.
Yeah, and to be honest, the black suit Superman during the death and return of Superman, it literally was just there because he didn't have power at that point when he came back, and he had to recharge his solar cells, and that suit assisted with that, and it also allowed him to interact with the mech Superman mech robot that he had. So, what the hell is the point of it in this movie? Because it's probably not going to do that in this movie. Right.
So that's a good point. So I was mistaken in thinking that was a reference to Justice Lord Superman. Cool. I like, honestly, I think I can see how that could be integrated into the current run of Justice League quite a bit better than if it was a sort of an evil Justice Lord, Superman.
It had to be, they'd had to cut out the whole everything of the return and just use it as to show him coming back to life. But then, me personally, it's not going to bother me that it's not going to follow the comic book. I'm going to make that really clear right now. I'm not one of those people.
Yeah.
But also, the suit has a very kind of specific purpose when it was utilized, and him coming back with this death pajama basically is what it is. His death PJs. It's just why even bother at this point?
So I don't know, folks. Luminous, I just might watch the scenes with Gal Gadot. But then I guarantee you, well, you may not have seen everything because, yeah, there's probably stuff that's going to be put in there that was taken out by the Whedon reshoots. But I'm almost positive you're not going to see anything new, as in Gal Gadot actually shooting new stuff. Nobody's going to shoot physical new stuff for $20 million.
There's not going to be new action scenes. It's just going to be a lot of talking, a lot of exposition.
Yep. Yeah, so 2021, folks, if you were super excited for this, that's when you get to, I was just going to say something that would have made me throw a quarter into a jar, so that's when you'll get to see the thrill that is the Snyder Cut, and frankly, that's when we all get to see whether or not there was any value in doing this beyond HBO sucking up thousands and thousands of subscribers when they probably will really need it in 2021. Yeah.
And on the real, like, looking at it from a corporate shady mofo perspective, like, it's a solid move. It's what I would do if I was a corporate shill. That's what I would do.
Yep. Yeah, from a business standpoint, you can't argue with it.
Yeah.
It's just from
moral and other. I'll argue those to death, but putting money in the pocket.
Yep. Artistic, yeah, you can argue that all you want, but anyway, so we're done arguing. And thank you all for the excellent chat on multiple platforms. It was wonderful tonight to have you guys all on. I'm Rodney Brown, editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber. Joining me tonight was...
Hey, everyone. Louis Correa. It's a fantastic night. I had a great time. I loved the interaction and the topics. It was great to have that more interaction. So next week, I expect all of you guys to come back, have more conversations with us, because we really love that.
Yeah, if Lewis can't make it, though, I'm just going to be crazy bouncing back in there. But
yeah, overwhelm Rodney. He got this.
I'm for it. I'm all for it. But Lewis will be back tomorrow or next week. Fingers crossed. Anyway, folks, thank you all for joining us. Have a good night. Stay safe. Please, do the right thing. Wear the mask in public. It's there's just no possible argument that could make any sense that it is not the right thing to do. Keep old people like me safe. Please.
Yes. Honestly, like, you are literally not hurting anyone by wearing that mask. You will be hurting someone if you take it off. It is really that easy.
Yep.
Stop being entitled about your freedoms, because your freedoms will always be there. This is not the freedom you need to fight for.
Exactly. And not you specifically, anybody out there, folks, because I'm sure you're all doing the right thing.
Shouting it out to the void.
Exactly. Out to the void there. And we're going to jump back to the void and the void of insane heat coming up here into New England in the next few days. Yeah. Phew. All of us, it's a good thing none of us have hair here, Lewis.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I have 5 fans on right now.
I have none, and I'm thinking about putting one in tonight to just really cool this place down. So thank you, folks. We'll see you next week. Have a good night. Bye-bye.